Hello again, and welcome to this crazy funky mental verse. But quieter day yesterday. We had a big, well, not a big. Ended up being about a 10-hour conversation with X amount of different people on similar themes at different scopes or different levels. So today, I think the last one I did was on I named it atheism and aliens or something like that, because I was going back to 2019. And when I was looking at the Ascension glossary, I don't know if people know it or read it or what, or I don't even know if anybody's going to listen to this, so it doesn't matter. But at this time, the Lee then was very, very confused. The static noise, the anger, the frustration, the perplexity, the bewilderness, all of the systems that were running autonomously in the background were failing, the collapsing of belief systems, and I'd lost pretty much every notion of what you're supposed to do or how you're supposed to live in this system. So I was searching, and I'd gone through this process of collapse, if you will, or whatever you wish to call it. There's so many ways of describing it. But here I was looking for some ideas and some concepts to work with. So of course, of course, I shouldn't say this because it's not, of course, it's each his path. But I was looking into absolutely everything that I could get hold of, sponging it all in and reading through it and trying to discern it. Well, not trying to, because it was actually happening. This wasn't trying to establish new belief systems. It was trying to establish the limits of where you could go, where you could believe, what you could choose. So I understood at this time that it was the first time I could make a choice based upon my own values. And I was working on these values, but didn't understand what they were, didn't understand what I was. Where is all this going? What's it doing? And all this confusion and bewilderment. While sat there considering certainly at this period, I was trying to speak with others. And of course, our friendly scandemic, or whatever you wish to call it, came through at the same sort of time, 2020. And this really was the cherry on the cake for me, anyway, as a human, working still or trying to trying to do these things. But for the previous sort of 12 years, I was reasonably heavily, to some degrees, involved in this legislative, statute, regulatory bodies of health and safety. Having worked on sites and tools and groundwork all my life, it was simple enough to go in and help others to understand how to comply without compliance, etc. So I was looking into these legal systems and statute systems, and had, of course, come across things like the Free Man from Gloucester, Free Men on the Land, sovereign ideas, and got quite involved in maritime law in the way that regulatory statutes and acts are not law, they're legalities. And I was fully understanding, or more fully understanding, the complication of the corporate system above what I understood before. Very confused, trying to speak to people, trying to find where we could agree on areas, and everybody seemed to be at the time all over the place, conceptually, mentally, but certainly with limit to what they could possibly allow themselves to believe. And so this was the situation as we went through 2020 early, and as soon as they pulled that lie on the people and tried to shove it down the throats across the world, my hands went straight in the air, and I was whooping for joy almost, because hallelujah, the people can see. Everybody now can see what they're doing. And of course, that didn't happen. So these anticipations or expectations at the time, I was working through the expectation of shift, of change. I was going out excited, thinking people would be really keen to look at this stuff now, but they weren't. And this was this move from wants and needs to simplicity and being. So effectively, it was complication. There was a lot of complication, a lot of storylines, rabbit hole after rabbit hole, warrens of these things, and deep dives into all sorts of things, from the Q stuff prior, that was still conspiracy theoritorial. So all of that, Pizzagate, and it doesn't really matter where you went. There was all of this information. Then into the galactic realms, if you will, with the Ascension Glossary, Anunnaki, Nibiru, Wormwood, rods and staffs, energy, vibration, Tesla came in. All of these things were coming in. And trying to sift through them when you got nobody to bounce them off was funky. Just days and weeks and months passed perfectly. And I witnessed what was going on outside and the depravity and the immorality. And I'm questioning, why are people doing this? Why are they choosing to believe this? Why? Yet it didn't matter what you said. The more you showed truth, the more they would shoot you down. So I was in chat rooms, all over the place, trying to find somewhere where the truth was available, could be discussed. So we get through 2020, and I'm looking into now, met a few other people, beautiful people, into the banking systems, the banking structures, how the off-ledger accounts work, black screen bank, all of the other sides of things, money creation as opposed to the public accounts, the unauthorized, trillions and money creation effectively, and where it came from. The concepts then were, well, why did we ever accept money? I know history shows us this, but history is false. When you start to question it, when you start to look at possibility over likelihood over the historical timeline, narratives, and the way it's herd mentality, peer reviewed into reality, it's just not true. So holographic inserts, timeline inserts, and all of these contemplations were coming in as to how much of it is real and how much of it isn't. Having lost the desire for most of my belief systems from that old human form, if you will, reality didn't need to be real for me anymore. Truth was more important than what I believed was real. So I was able to question everything fundamentally. And then when I started to speak to people, they could bring their beliefs to the table, to us together, and we could discuss them. So I made this choice, not to let the head get in the way of the heart, let's say. It was that simple. I didn't have any meat on that bone. I also made a choice very shortly afterwards as well, not to get in the way of the universe anymore by thinking I knew better, and sit and allow whatever comes to me to come to me rather than me go out and chase it. So this was a responsible view, in my opinion, at the time, as opposed to a proactive or reactive viewpoint where we're chasing constantly that which we never seem to be able to find. Well, what if I didn't chase it? And what if I sat and saw what I could find without that? Something that couldn't be taken away. These were the concepts. And I was confused. I was, meditation, Zen, get to your Zen. You've got to go inwards. What does that mean? How do you go inwards? And what's Zen? What's this? And how do I find it? If I don't find Zen, what am I lost? There's an ascension. Well, what's this mean? Am I on it? What's going on? All of these areas of lack, instability, insecurity, no foundation. Just start again, son. That was where it kind of started. Now, I was in a situation where it didn't really matter to me. I'd lost the will to value anything external of me, which also meant money, and everything didn't make it was valueless unless it was trustworthy. And that meant there had to be a commonality or a common union between us in our belief systems, be it money, be it food, but whatever. It needed to be refined, redefined, and questioned for me as I was doing this. And this is what stripped it of complexity, brought it down to simplicity. And with the fractal nature of things, it expanded exponentially. But this point, the podcasts, trying to talk to people across the continents, I cut a few other videos, YouTube, started that in 2020, trying to, again, get common union with people. And speak on a level, which we did, but there was always this periphery that sent you sideways. It was never couldn't stay aligned. And I understand why now, but at the time it was weird because nothing would stay. It wasn't until 21 really that people started to come and remain, and we started to move forwards into different areas of what would be called ground crew mission, divine mission, or all of these names, which sound grander than they need to be because they're just factors or cogs in a bigger mechanism. So this was this process between 2019, 2020, 2021, where now I was creating fundamental agreements. What is it that we believe? What is it that you believe? What is it that we are? What is it that you conceive yourself to be? Why are you here? What are you doing? And these areas were so much deeper, and they caused change, fundamental change in a lot of things. So these principles, these fundamentals that I was looking at, transpired to be based upon a reflection of my own life, relatively. Once I understood that from the very beginning there was an issue that was unnoticed, let's say, and across the globe is becoming more prevalent and evident now. But I had to look for what was stable. And what I found was that I could hold some element of trying to hold some element of honor through previous experiences. Now, I understand that it was tenuous, but nevertheless, that was the thing that I could pull out of it. It felt unfair. It wasn't fair. So it was a justice fight, but it was an injustice external. I'll get into this when I start talking about blame, shame, guilt, and justice and how that starts. But I looked at what you could, how accountability and responsibility meant reconciliation of all of the old issues and a change of fundamental path. So a wipe of the slate, but that meant accounting for my own actions or the actions of, my actions, Lee. So I dealt with that over a period of time. The people I spoke with, the people I needed to release, I did in periods of what would be meditation or quiet. This process went on for a period of time until there was nothing left unaccounted for or without need to be accounted for. So it was nothing could bite again. There was nothing left that could come back. Like it was almost like releasing the swords of Damocles from the and just cleaning the slate, balancing the books, paying the piper. It took a while, and it took truth. This is what it took. It took truth and honesty. And I now understand that the gates of heaven, if you wish to call it that, or the heart, or whatever you wish to call it, takes that internal judgment, inner judgment. And this comes from a use of the sword of truth, if you will. A lot of these terms can be multi-used, but if you're not going to, you can't hide from yourself. It's false. So you've got to sit in the light of truth or the light of consciousness or the light of source, whatever you wish, and humble yourself in front of it. And well, this is what I did, yes. To be able to account for it all so that none of it builds back up again. It's not something that can be used against you again, which you're so used to in the past, being emotionally blackmailed, assigned a blame and believing it. All of these things were falling apart, unraveling, untangling, detaching. And I use the term determination, to determine, not to determine as in to determine the outcome, but to determine as in determinate, to uncouple the termination, to uncouple the connection, to disconnect, to detach, and to reattach from a transmuted higher place, if you will. So the way I refer to it now is by filtering the gold, the wisdom. And it was at this stage that wisdom started to come in. What is wisdom and what is it about? What's philosophy? The the philosophy of, and I was against this, I was anti this before because it all seemed a little bit erudite, academic, intellectual, and all of these ideas. But no, the love of wisdom, Sophia, the love of Sophia, the love of wisdom, the love of truth. Okay, well, what's truth? And it became evident that with the fractal nature of things, truth couldn't be personal. It couldn't be subjective. It had to be universal. Otherwise, it was an abstract truth that didn't hold. The center didn't hold when questioned. It's the easiest way. The center didn't hold if it was just a personalized truth. I think this. Yeah, but that doesn't represent itself on a larger scale. It doesn't matter. There's an exemption. No, there isn't. And this cutting through the exemptions to prove the rule was a process. It was 21, I think, when I found Ken Wheeler Theoria and was sent down the magnetic route, looking into Eastern poly philosophies. And Ken's brilliant, very, very interesting thinker, with a lot of concepts that could be used and expanded into different areas. And I was already conceptualizing ether at this time, or at least a substrate or a discrete layer of creation, an energetic layer, the energy of creation. Well, where is it? Just because we can't see it, fundamentally, what is it? 0.004% of the light spectrum or something like that. We can see. So it's not surprising there's a lot we can't. So what is it we can't see? And what Ken Theoria and this idea did was showed me the toroidal field with the hyperbola, the hyperbolic. And that took me another three or 4 months of watching this, philosophizing internally, reviewing it, desperately trying to understand it because I was seeking so much. And of course, I've learned now that the more you look, the more you want, the less you're going to get. So, but this is complication versus simplicity, and we'll get onto that soon. So let's leave that one here at the toroidal field and the spherical frequency of light, and we'll see where the next one goes. Much love to everybody.